Now we have Catherine. She is the jewel in our crown now. And we should take great care of her because everything hinges on her.
What about Meghan? Could she be like a number 2?
No, absolutely not.
And that's where we don't align. So I think it's about, if you say that this is the royal family and you look after your family, the concerns that Harry raised about his family and the experience that he went through, it was a great opportunity for the royal family to showcase their increasing capacity and their evolution and taking care of the people in that family, and they didn't.
But then don't go to America, use your title as a commercial
These are things
vehicle.
after the fact. In the moment of it happening, as you just said, you gave an exact example of what happened to Diana because of the context she was in. The context that Harry and Meghan were put into created their choices. Whether you agree with them or not,
but this
they were
different.
looked after, that wouldn't happen.
This is different, is it? Yeah.
This is different because Harry, by doing the Oprah Winfrey show and pressing that racist button, which actually never existed.
A racist button.
Yeah, well, that's fair phrasing, isn't it? He accused them of racism.
He accused the royal family of racism. I know the royal family. I worked with them for 21 years. I know that the Queen's greatest achievement in her lifetime was her Commonwealth of Countries.
Okay.
My invitation
and they all
Marvyn, very quickly.
Let's hear Marvyn's response to that.
Yes, my invitation is a incident that is a racial observation doesn't make you a racist, right? And so he said he experienced something where race was called into question, and we're completely dismissing it because it's like it's impossible for them to be racist. I don't even think that they're sitting here believing in that. But at the same point, he's right to say that and to, as Jeremy said, protect his family by doing what he feels necessary, which wasn't done historically.
I think both he and Meghan knew exactly what they were doing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, the Jeremy Vine Show says so much about the way this country treats Meghan Sussex compared to how it, bends over backwards for Kate Middleton. On one side, we had Paul Burrell, the former royal butler, puffing his chest out to declare that Kate Middleton is a jewel who must be protected and cherished at all costs. On the other side, we had Marvyn Harrison, clear-eyed, calm, but razor-sharp, who refused to let Burrell's narrative slide. And let's be real here. This wasn't just a debate about an Oprah interview or whether Harry and Meghan knew what they were doing. This was a microcosm of the double standard that's been suffocating Meghan since the moment she entered that gilded royal machine, a system that has always demanded total obedience and silence from anyone who dares to challenge its polished mask of perfection. Paul Burrell sitting there, practically waxing poetic about Kate Middleton being a jewel, exposes so much of the bias we've seen for years. Because notice how Meghan Sussex is never given that same grace, never described as a jewel, never praised as someone precious who should be cared for. Instead, Meghan is dissected, vilified, treated like a manipulative outsider, and accused of knowing exactly what she was doing by exposing the racism, cruelty, and indifference she experienced at the hands of the institution. And Marvyn Harrison asked the critical question, what does it even mean to say Meghan pressed a racist button? Is racism some sort of game, something Meghan can just decide to turn on or off depending on what she wants? That framing is not only insulting, it absolves the institution of its responsibility. Because Meghan didn't invent the racism she faced. She lived it, she endured it, and she spoke her truth. And the fact that her truth made so many people uncomfortable doesn't make it any less real. When Paul Burrell tells us that Harry and Meghan knew what they were doing in that Oprah interview, what he really means is that he wanted them to stay quiet, to smile politely, and to play the role of grateful side characters in the fairy tale of William and Kate. He doesn't want to confront the fact that Meghan was treated appallingly by the press, often with the palace's quiet encouragement. He doesn't want to admit that questions about Archie's skin color, or the lack of support Meghan received when she said she was struggling, point to deep cracks in the shiny facade of the royal family. Instead, he tries to shift the blame onto Meghan herself, as if she orchestrated the entire narrative for her own benefit. That's gaslighting at its finest, and Marvyn Harrison refused to let him get away with it. Think about the contrast here. Meghan, an accomplished woman with her own career, her own identity, comes into this family and is immediately told she should shrink, smile, and accept abuse in silence. Meanwhile, Kate Middleton, who has spent over a decade carefully curating the image of the perfect, dutiful royal, is elevated to jewel status, untouchable and beyond criticism. The media writes endless puff pieces about her fashion, her hair, her supposed grace, while Meghan is dragged for everything from the way she cradled her baby bump to the way she closed a car door by herself. The double standard couldn't be clearer. When Kate eats avocado, it's for her health. When Meghan eats avocado, it's destroying the planet. When Kate wears off-the-shoulder dresses, she's elegant. When Meghan does the same, she's breaking royal protocol. And Burrell's comment about Kate being a jewel only reinforces that narrative, that Meghan will always be the villain while Kate will always be the untouchable princess in the glass case. What makes Marvyn Harrison's pushback so powerful is that he pointed out the absurdity of treating racism as a button. Racism isn't a gimmick you can just activate for attention, it's a lived reality. And Meghan didn't go into that Oprah interview to stir chaos. She went because she was suffocating under the silence. She went because she was told her son wouldn't have security, because she was told she wasn't protected, because she was suicidal, and the institution shut its doors on her cries for help. If anything, Harry and Meghan knew what they were doing in the sense that they knew silence would destroy them. They knew that the only way to protect themselves and their children was to tell the truth, even if the truth made the monarchy uncomfortable. Burrell's language is especially galling when you remember who he is. This is a man who built his reputation as Diana's former butler, someone who has spent decades trading on her name while claiming to be her loyal defender. And yet here he is, defending the institution that crushed her, while disparaging her own son and his wife for daring to speak out against the same forces that destroyed her life. There's something deeply hypocritical about that. Diana was hounded by the press, treated as an outsider, and isolated when she needed the most support. Meghan Sussex lived through a near-carbon copy of that, and instead of learning from history, Burrell stands with the crown, dismissing Meghan's pain and telling the public that she was just pressing buttons. If Diana were alive to see this, does anyone really believe she would be siding with Paul Burrell against her own son and daughter-in-law? And let's not forget Anne Widdecombe chiming in on that panel, sitting comfortably in the role of the establishment defender, brushing off Meghan's experiences as if they're just exaggerations or attention-seeking moves. The very fact that Meghan's words are constantly scrutinized, picked apart, and dismissed while Kate is wrapped in a bubble of glowing protection shows us why Marvyn Harrison's voice is so necessary. He didn't let Burrell's nostalgia-tinged royal loyalty go unchallenged. He said, "No, racism is not a button. No, you don't get to shift blame onto Meghan for exposing what she went through. And no, calling Kate a jewel doesn't erase the way Meghan has been dehumanized by the very same institution." This debate on Jeremy Vine was more than just another panel argument. It was a public display of the split in how Britain talks about Meghan versus how it talks about Kate. On one side, endless adoration and protection. On the other, suspicion, hostility, and dismissal. And every time someone like Burrell uses sentimental words like jewel for Kate, it reinforces the idea that Meghan can never, ever be seen as precious in the eyes of the establishment. She will always be positioned as the problem, the outsider, the troublemaker. That's why voices like Marvyn's matter, because they disrupt that script. They force people to see the hypocrisy. They refuse to let the establishment hide behind pretty words while erasing Meghan's pain. And at the heart of all of this is Harry, a son who watched his mother be destroyed by the same system, a husband who saw his wife being treated the same way. He knew the cost of silence, and he wasn't about to lose his family to the same cycle of abuse. So yes, Harry and Meghan knew what they were doing in that Oprah interview, but what they were doing was surviving. They were choosing life over silence, truth over suffocation, and no amount of Burrell's sentimental speeches about jewels can rewrite that reality.